Welcome back, everyone. Dog Walker Dave here. Today I'll be going over my review of the Salomon Ultra Pro trail running shoe at the end of its life. I'm going to go over what I think was good about it, what was maybe not so good, and maybe even a couple of ugly things about Salomon shoe. Before I get into it, I am not sponsored by Salomon. I have not been provided these shoes. I bought them with my own money, and I have put them through the ringer and back. I put well over 400 kilometers on these shoes, including a very technical, rocky, snowy, muddy ultra marathon, and a bunch of other crap conditions. So right out of the box, I did a no-no. I like to live dangerously. I went for a 4-hour trail run, pulled them out of the box, went out for a 4-hour trail run with a friend of mine, and within the first 30 minutes probably, we hit streams and mud with them. And out of the box, they were amazing on my feet. Going through the streams, I found the drainage to be very good, considering I've run in other shoes in the past that have had terrible drainage. So I was very impressed. My feet did not bother me at all on a 4-hour run, fresh out of the box. Not many shoes I can say that will apply to. My Salomon Speed Cross, for instance, over 150 kilometers into them, and I'm still wearing them in some ways. So what do I have to say that's good about them? Well, number one, the comfort. As I mentioned, right out of the box, over rocky terrain, even though there is no rock plate, and they are very stiff shoe, very stiff, they are very comfortable, for my foot anyways. For a Salomon shoe, now I know that's saying a lot because Salomon typically has a narrower shoe, but I find that there's a good amount of width in the toe box. I don't have the widest of foot, but the toe box is quite wide. They are relatively close to the ground. I'll put up on the screen the stack height in the rear, stack height in the forefoot, and the drop as well, the difference between the rear and the front of the shoe. They have Salomon's Conti-Grip outsole, and I've tried a lot of running shoes with a lot of different outsoles, but Salomon does a bang up job with their outsole. Not a tremendous amount of lug depth to them, but it's a very tacky outsole. It works in all the conditions that I put it through. Probably wouldn't be the best for extremely muddy conditions because there's not a lot of lug depth like the Salomon Speed Cross, but overall this is a fantastic outsole and it wears actually quite well. Another pro for the shoe is that there's a lot of welded overlays on it. The toe box is very well protected. It's got a huge amount of rubber, thermoplastic material, whatever you want to call it, over the toe box, and lots of nice welded overlays going to the heel counter. This is called the heel counter shoe. Lots of welded overlays coming through here. So there's a lot of great protection from rocks and roots and any other bit of nonsense that you have to run through. And it also has one of these on both shoes, obviously medial and lateral side. So this is the medial side, the middle, and the lateral is the outside, and there's a bit of mesh on this insert as well. But these little wings, I believe they're called, little wings, they lock your foot in very nicely. The shoe itself breathes quite well, especially when it comes to comparing it to the Speed Cross. Now I know the Speed Cross is almost an entirely different shoe made for different conditions, but this shoe does not get extremely hot when you're running in 20 degrees Celsius or more temperatures. As I mentioned on my very first run I did with these, the 4-hour jaunt, running through water, these things drain very well. There's no holes in the outsole or anything like that, but they drain surprisingly well for a shoe that's this protective. Now for a Salomon shoe, they tend to fit a little bit longer. Not as bad as my Speedcross. I've been at 10.5 in my shoes for well over 20 years. The Speedcross fit probably even a half a size big. The Ultra Pro fit about a quarter-ish size, a little bit too big, but that's okay because your feet will swell, especially these are made for longer distances for sure. These are not a light and fast shoe. They're made for all-day comfort, and I can truly attest that they are definitely comfortable all day. But having that additional width and a little bit extra length is not necessarily a problem. Actually, it's quite good to have that because, again, your feet swell over the course of many hours out on them. So, what would I consider the not so good? Not really a big deal, not a game changer by any stretch, but Salomon's lace lock system, which is a fantastic system. You never have to worry about your shoes being going untight or untying. But this lace lock system, unlike some of the other Salomons, it tucks in from the top of the shoe. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's not a big deal. But if you look at a Speedcross shoe and all of my other Salomon shoes over the past, the pocket, you insert the extra loop or the extra cord here underneath. And it's a lot easier to do. This one, it tucks in from the top, which is kind of a pain because you have to stuff it down in there. And again, this is not going to determine whether you're going to buy the shoe or not, but this is just something that it's a little bit annoying. I don't know why Salomon did it that way, but hey, they know what they're doing when it comes to trail running shoes. Now, the only ugly thing about this shoe is that after about 250 kilometers, I'm going to show it on the camera down here. After about 250 kilometers, it showed signs of wear down here through on both shoes, on both lateral on the outside and the medial side. It just happens to be worse on this right side. And I poked through probably before 300 kilometers, I poked through. And I'm not really a big guy. 160 pounds roughly, and I usually don't trash my shoes. My shoes last a long time because I'm a relatively light runner, but this is not the first pair of Salomons that have come through at this point. I believe part of it is due to the lack of flexibility in the back of the shoe, but then the front of the shoe, it's quite a bit more flexible. So what I think is happening is that there must be a little bit of a buckling that's happening here on the shoe. And when you're toeing off all the time, that just will naturally make a crease and eventually it will wear through. And as I said, this is not the first Salomon shoe to do this. I know 3 other sets of Salomon shoes for sure that have done the same thing on the shoe, especially on the medial side. So that's a bit of a bummer because, to be honest, if it wasn't for that, I would still put in many kilometers on these shoes. Now, what's my overall verdict? Well, you can probably tell, and I'm not trying to be a Salomon fanboy here or anything like that, but they know how to make good trail running shoes, if not great trail running shoes. I've never really been disappointed overall with a Salomon shoe, and this will definitely get 2 very enthusiastic thumbs up for me. I will be purchasing another pair of the Salomon Ultra Pros once I wear through all of my other trail running shoes. The only thing that bothers me again is just the holes breaking through. Come on, Salomon, you can do a better job of this. I know you can, okay? Even with that being said, I will still run in this shoe for well over 100 kilometers more, as long as the conditions are not too wet, because although really if you're running through water, it doesn't matter if you get water in your shoe via the hole on the side here, or if it's just going to seep in anyways. But one big thing would be just the amount of rocks and whatnot that you can get in this shoe. So it can get a little bit annoying when you get a rock in your shoe like that. Take the shoe off and dump it out and whatnot. But other than that, yeah, definitely be purchasing another pair of Ultra Pros in the not so distant future. So those are my thoughts on the Salomon Ultra Pro shoe. Even though this shoe is well over a year and a half old, they are still making the same shoe, just in a different color. I personally like just the drab gray / black version of it, because when you're out there trail running, your shoe is it might be nice to start off with gray colors, but it's just going to get trashed anyways. It's going to be quite dirty over time anyway. So I don't think that's that big of a deal for me. Again, don't look at the color of a shoe. Don't look at the brand name or anything like that. When you're trying shoes on, the best advice I would give to everybody for trying on any shoes is, number one, make sure it fits your foot right. Number two, make sure it fits your foot right. Number three, make sure it fits your foot right. And then number four, consider possibly the price and other variables, but go with the fit. And if you find something that fits, stock up, buy a couple of pairs of that shoe, because a lot of times shoe manufacturers will change out styles and whatnot, and they have, for what you think is a perfect shoe, so I wish I could have this for the rest of my life, the same shoe, and I've had that in running shoes. And then they go to new version, make subtle changes, and those subtle changes can make a big difference. So that's everything, you guys. I hopefully gave you some good advice here as far as whether you want to purchase the Ultra Pro running shoe from Salomon. If you found this video helpful and or useful, considering giving a thumbs up. And if you could, subscribe to the channel. That would really help us out here. That's all I have for this end. Have yourself a wonderful day, everyone.